The camera caught it all in one brutal, unforgiving shot. A 17-year-old boy sitting at the defense table, legs sprawled, shoulders slumped, rolling his eyes while Judge Judy read out the words, second-degree murder. No flinch, no shame. Just bored arrogance. Within hours of airing, that clip would explode across the internet, stitched, dueted, reacted to by millions. But what the viral edits would never fully capture was the thing the cameras couldn't see at first. In the third row of that courtroom, a woman in a simple black dress sat gripping her handbag so tightly her fingers went white. This was Patricia Thompson, Marcus's mother, and she had already made a decision that would blow her son's fake bravado to pieces and restore a lot of people's faith that some parents still know what real accountability looks like. Before that moment, Marcus Thompson thought he was untouchable. 2 juvenile cases behind him, 2 plea deals, 2 times he'd walked into court with a smirk and walked back out with rehabilitation programs and second chances instead of real punishment. He'd learned one lesson, and he'd learned it well. If you're under 18 and you know the right things to say, the system will bend. He strutted into Judge Judy's courtroom that Tuesday morning like it was just another easy level in a game he'd already mastered. Same dead eyes, same lazy grin, same attitude that said, I've beaten you people before, and I'll beat you again. He had no idea his mother had been on the phone all night. No idea she'd called the ... No idea she'd spoken to the show's producers. No idea she'd quietly told them, I'm done protecting him. Ask me what you need to ask me. I will not lie for him again. We'll get to that moment. The one that made a 17-year-old killer finally break down. The one where his own mother's words cut deeper than any sentence a judge could hand down. The moment that had veteran court officers wiping their eyes and Sarah Martinez's parents finally exhaling after months of suffocating grief. But first, you need to understand just how far gone Marcus Thompson already was, because this is not a story about a good kid who made one mistake. This is about what happens when a boy realizes, way too early, that he can play the system like a piano, and about the one person who finally refused to play along. Marcus's criminal resume didn't start with Sarah at 14. He robbed a corner store with a cheap handgun he'd gotten from an older cousin. He pointed it at a clerk 3 times his age and laughed when the man's hands shook. When he got caught, the judge saw a scared child and gave him community service and therapy. At 15, he was busted selling pills outside a middle school. The prosecutor asked for serious time. The judge saw a boy from a broken home who deserved another shot. Marcus walked away with a program and a probation officer who believed every rehearsed apology he delivered. At 16, he beat a classmate so badly the kid needed reconstructive surgery. Another sealed juvenile record. Another anger management course. Another string of adults saying, we see potential in you. And every single time, Marcus walked out of those courtrooms with one more brick added to the wall of his own invincibility. He knew how to drop his eyes at the right moment, how to choke out fake tears just when a judge started to lose patience, how to say, I take responsibility in a way that sounded believable enough to people who wanted to believe. He studied the juvenile system harder than other kids studied for exams. Sealed records. That means fresh start programs. That means no real prison. Under 18. That means we don't give up on children. So by the time February rolled around, the cold, gray night that would end one life and finally truly derail another, Marcus wasn't some confused teenager spiraling out of control. He was calculated. He was practiced. And he was very, very dangerous. Sarah Martinez never saw him coming. She was 16. A quiet girl who worked evenings at a small bookstore to help her parents with bills. She left work at 9:17 p.m., coat zipped to her chin, earbuds in. Walking the same route home she'd walked 100 times before. The street camera footage that would later be played in court doesn't lie. Marcus appears from the edge of the frame. Hood up, gun visible. He steps in front of her, blocking her path. She startles, freezes, then exactly as her parents had drilled into her, lifts her hands and hands over her back without a fight. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. She does everything right, and he shoots her anyway. Point blank. One shot to the chest. The footage has no sound, but everyone who saw it swore they could hear the echo anyway. Sarah goes down. Marcus stands over her. He doesn't panic. He doesn't check on her. He doesn't even lean down. He just looks. For 37 long, chilling seconds, he stares at the girl bleeding out at his feet like she's an inconvenience on the sidewalk. Then he turns and walks away, calm, hands in pockets, while Sarah is still alive. Enough to whisper for her mother. That's who Marcus Thompson really was when he walked into Judge Judy's courtroom months later. Not a scared kid. Not a confused child. A 17-year-old who'd already learned to take life and shrug it off. In the days after the shooting, while Sarah's parents were choosing a coffin, Marcus was posting on social media like nothing had happened. New selfies, new jokes, new comments in group chats bragging about how cold he'd been. When the police finally showed up at his door 3 days later, his first words weren't "what happened?" or "is she okay?" They were, "I want my lawyer." Cold, practiced, ready. For the next level of the legal game, he really believed he was going to beat this too. He had no idea that the one person who'd always been his shield was about to flip sides, and Judge Judy. She'd already seen the tape. She'd already read the reports. She'd deal with him in her own brutal way, but the blow that would finally crack Marcus Thompson didn't come from the bench. It came from the woman in the third row in the black dress, who'd finally decided that loving her son meant stopping the lie that he was just a troubled boy who needed help. Asterisk, Marcus Thompson wasn't some idiot who stumbled into trouble. He was smart. Too smart. He'd figured out early that in this country, being underage and knowing how to perform remorse was like having a cheat code. In therapy sessions, he could turn the waterworks on and off like a faucet. He talked about his anger, his confusion, his pain. He used all the right buzzwords: trauma, environment, mistakes. The counselors ate it up. The court reports filled with phrases like "shows insight," "expresses regret," "responding well to intervention." Then he'd walk out and go right back to the same streets, the same crew, the same choices. Only now he had more information about exactly how far he could push it. The juvenile system meant well. It really did. It was built for kids who mess up and want to do better. But for someone like Marcus, someone who saw every therapist as a teacher giving him the answers to the test, it became his favorite tool. He knew, down to the month, how long a sentence could be before he aged out. He knew what kinds of crimes usually stayed in juvenile court. He knew that no matter how ugly his sealed record got, once he turned 18, he'd be able to say, "I've never been convicted of anything as an adult." And he knew, or thought he knew, that nobody in the system wanted to be the one who gave up on a kid. So when Sarah Martinez's case landed on a prosecutor's desk, there was a fight. One side argued, "He's 17. Charge him as a juvenile. We can rehabilitate him." The other side, looking at the video over and over, said, "No, this isn't a mistake. This is who he is." In the end, they went with something in between. Television exposure. A judge who wasn't afraid to say the quiet part out loud. Judge Judith Files, better known to America as Judge Judy, had dealt with more lying, manipulative teenagers than Marcus could imagine. She had heard every sob story, every excuse, every "I just fell in with the wrong crowd." Her courtroom was different from the ones Marcus was used to. No fawning over his potential, no endless programs, just a sharp mind, sharper questions, and cameras that didn't blink. The DA's office pushed hard to get this case in front of her show. Not because TV decides legal guilt, that happens in real court, but because they wanted the world to see exactly what this kid was. And because they knew Judge Judy doesn't play, while Marcus was in holding, bragging to other detainees that he was going to be on TV and go viral. His mother was sitting at her kitchen table, staring at a stack of papers. Police reports, discovery documents, the still frames from the video, Sarah's obituary printed from a news site, edges curled from being handled too many times, Patricia Thompson wasn't blind. She'd seen the signs for years. The warnings from teachers, the calls from principals, the red flags she'd pushed down with phrases like, boys will be boys, and he's just acting out. She'd hired lawyers, wiped records, argued with family members who said, you're too soft on him. She'd convinced herself every time that the next program, the next therapist, the next chance would be the one that finally turned him around. Asterisk. But the night she saw the security footage of Sarah's murder, something in her snapped. Not when he pulled the gun. Not even when he fired Dot. It was those 37 seconds afterward. The way her son stared at the girl on the ground like she was a broken object. Not a human being dying at his feet. She watched that part on loop. Over and over. Trying to find even one hint of panic, one flinch of regret, one sign that the boy she'd raised was still in there somewhere. There was nothing. That's when she did something Marcus would never have imagined. She stopped calling lawyers. And she started calling the DA. When the producers from Judge Judy's show reached out, she picked up. When they asked if she'd be willing to be in the courtroom, she didn't hesitate, but she added one condition of her own. If you ask me what's really happened with my son, I will tell you the truth. All of it, even if it puts him away forever. While Patricia was making that decision, Marcus was making a very different one. He was practicing his confused face, practicing his sad but strong posture, practicing the lines he'd seen work on so many adults before. I never meant for anything to happen. I was scared. I fell in with the wrong people. I want to change. He thought TV would be fun, maybe even help him. He told the other kids, daytime judges are soft. It's just a show. I'll get to tell my side. Might even get sympathy. He had no idea that this judge had built a career on shredding sides and going straight to the truth. The day of the taping, he walked onto that set because, make no mistake, it is a set. Lights and all with the same swagger he used in school hallways. He didn't look at Sarah's parents when he passed them. Didn't glance at the photo of her on the victim's table. His eyes went straight to the cameras. He grinned. You could almost hear his thoughts. This is my moment. He didn't notice his mother sitting a few rows back, not in the front where she always sat to show support. He didn't ask why her eyes were red, or why, for the first time since he was little, she didn't smile when he walked in. Judge Judy took the bench, file in hand. She'd already memorized most of it. She didn't need the paper to know what she thought of Marcus Thompson, but she watched him anyway. The slouch. The wandering eyes. The open disrespect before a single word was spoken. She'd seen it 1,000 times, but there was something extra ugly about seeing that look on the face of someone who'd stood over a dying girl and walked away without blinking. Case of the people versus Marcus Thompson, she began, voice cool, steady. Murder in the second degree. Armed robbery. 17 years old at the time of the offense. As she said Sarah Martinez, the courtroom shifted. Heads bowed slightly. The bailiff straightened his shoulders. Sarah's parents clutched each other's hands. Marcus yawned on camera. On record. During the reading of the charges that would haunt Sarah's family forever, Judge Judy clocked it. Filed it away, Mr. Thompson, she said. Do you understand what you're charged with? He didn't even try to fake respect. Yeah, he muttered. Whatever. I guess. 5 words. Enough to tell her everything she needed to know. He didn't call her Your Honor. He shrugged. He spoke like he was being asked to sign for a package he hadn't ordered. In that moment, any microscopic sliver of doubt that might have existed about trying him as an adult evaporated, and he still wasn't done bearing himself, because arrogance never knows when to shut up. Asterisk. Judge Judy's questions are never random. With kids, especially dangerous ones, they're surgical. She doesn't start with, why did you do it? She starts with things like, do you understand why you're here? Do you understand what happened to the victim? Do you understand the consequences? How you answer those gives her everything she needs, Mr. Thompson, she said slowly, eyes drilling into him. Tell me in your own words what happened the night Sarah Martinez died. Marcus sighed dramatically. slumped even further down in his chair, like this was the most boring thing he'd ever been forced to do. Look, he said it was just supposed to be a quick thing. Get money, bounce. She freaked out. Stuff went wrong. People die every day. Stuff went wrong. People die every day. The air in the courtroom turned to glass. Sarah's mother let out a sound that wasn't quite a sob and wasn't quite a scream. Her husband tightened his grip around her shoulders. Knuckles bone-white dot. Judge Judy's jaw tightened. Stuff went wrong, she repeated calmly. Is that how you describe walking up to a 16-year-old girl, taking her bag, which he handed over without resistance, and shooting her in the chest? He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes. You're making it sound worse than it was, he muttered. I didn't, plan all that. It just happened. Everyone's acting like I'm some monster. I'm just a kid. There it was. The shield. The line he'd used 100 times before. I'm just a kid. Do you grasp what you took from her family? Judge Judy asked. From her parents? From her little brother? Marcus let out a short, annoyed laugh. Look, lady, he said, people die. It happens. I'm here now, right? What do you want me to say? Lady, asterisk, he just called Judge Judy lady on national television. In a murder case. While talking about the girl he killed as she was an item on a broken shipment list, the court reporter's fingers actually paused over the keys. The bailiff took half a step forward, eyes narrowing. If this were any other judge, this would be the moment they lost it. Raised their voice. Kicked him out. Held him in contempt. Judge Judy did none of that. She stayed icy. Mr. Thompson, she said, you will address this court as your honor. You will sit up straight. And you will answer my questions respectfully. Do you understand? He leaned back even further, arms crossing over his chest. Or what? He smirked. You gonna send me to my room? I'm a minor. What are you really gonna do? Somewhere behind him, Patricia inhaled sharply. He wasn't done. You can't lock me up forever, Marcus added, shrugging. Worst case, I go to juvie till I'm, 21? Then I'm out living my life, and you're still here yelling at people on TV. The words hit the room like a bomb. Even the cameras seemed to tilt closer. Hungry dot in less than a minute, he'd downplayed murder as stuff happens. Called the judge lady. Bragged. On record, about gaming the system and getting out at 21. Mocked her entire career. He thought he sounded untouchable. Asterisk. He sounded like exactly what he was. A 17-year-old who believed consequences were just a temporary inconvenience. What? He didn't see because arrogance never looks. Behind is the woman in the third row standing up. Patricia. Thompson had spent the entire hearing staring at her son like he was a stranger wearing her child's face. Every smirk, every careless shrug, every word that reduced Sarah's life to stuff. She'd heard his lawyers tell her before this hearing, don't say anything. Sit, look supportive. Let us handle it. If he looks remorseful enough, we can keep this in juvenile court. She'd nodded like a good client, but sitting there, watching her son treat a girl's death like bad traffic, something inside her finally, fully broke. She rose, hands shaking, legs threatening to give out. But her voice, when it came, was clear enough for every microphone in that room to catch. Your Honor, she said. Judge Judy's eyes flicked past Marcus's head to the woman standing behind him. Yes, ma'am? She replied. Do you need something? Patricia didn't look at her son yet. Couldn't. Not if she wanted to get the words out. My name is Patricia Thompson, she said. I'm his mother. I would like permission to address the court. Marcus whipped around in his chair, asterisk mom. He choked, the first real crack in his voice all morning. What are you doing? Sit down. Don't talk. For the first time in a long time, she didn't obey his tone. Judge Judy glanced at the bailiff, then back at Patricia. Come forward, she said. If you're willing to testify, I'm willing to listen. The staff shifted uncertainly. This wasn't standard procedure. Parents in juvenile cases usually sat quiet, maybe sniffled into tissues, then went home to keep enabling Dot. This was something else. Patricia walked down the aisle like she was walking down a lawn. dark tunnel toward a door she couldn't see, only feel. Each step sounded too loud. The weight of 17 years of excuses dragged at her feet. Marcus watched her approach, his posture changing in real time. The swagger slid right off him. The smirk vanished. His mouth went dry. This wasn't a DA. This wasn't a cop. This wasn't a judge. This was the one person who had always stood between him and the consequences of his actions, and she was walking toward the bench, not the defense table. She faced Judge Judy, lips trembling, eyes shining. "Raise your right hand," the bailiff said. She did. Asterisk. "Do you swear to tell the truth?" "The whole truth, and nothing but the truth." "So help you God?" "I do," she whispered. Marcus shook his head violently. "Mom, don't do this," he hissed. "I swear to God." "Quiet," Judge Judy snapped without even looking at him. "One more outburst and you'll be removed from this courtroom." The room fell into a kind of electric silence. Everyone knew, instinctively, that whatever came out of Patricia Thompson's mouth next would decide what happened to her son, not just his sentence, his entire future. Patricia took a deep breath that seemed to pull air from the solace of her feet all the way to her throat. Turned first to the bench. "Your Honor," she began, voice unsteady but growing stronger with each word. "I want to apologize. To you, to the Martinez family, to everyone in this courtroom who had to sit and listen to my son talk the way he just did." She swallowed hard. "The way he spoke about Sarah's life. That is not how I raised him. But it is who he has chosen to become. And I have let it happen." She finally turned to face Marcus. Asterisk. The cameras caught everything. The way his eyes darted. The way his leg bounced uncontrollably under the table. The way his lips trembled just a fraction. "Marcus," she said, and there was a weight in his name he'd never heard from her before. "I have been making excuses for you since you were 12 years old." The list came out. Each example like a hammer blow. "When you robbed that store, I told myself you were scared. When you were caught selling drugs, I told myself you were pressured. When you put that boy in the hospital, I told myself you were angry and misunderstood." Tears spilled down her face now, but she didn't wipe them away. "I hired the best lawyers we could afford. I told the judges you were a good boy at heart. I begged them for programs and probation and another chance. And every time, you walked out of those courtrooms a little more sure that you were untouchable." She took a shaky breath. "I taught you that no matter what you did, Mom would fix it. That there was always another trick, another favor, another deal. I didn't realize it then, but I was teaching you that consequences were for other people. That victims were props in your story. That if we said the right words, what you did didn't really matter." Her jaw tightened. "Then I saw that video." The room seemed to lean in. "I saw you walk up to that girl. I saw her hand you her bag. I saw you shoot her anyway." She pressed a hand to her chest as if trying to hold herself together. "And I saw those 37 seconds afterward. The way you looked at her. The way you turned and walked away while she was calling for her mother." Her voice cracked on that last word. "I have never heard a scream like the one I let out in my kitchen when I watched that. Because for the first time in my life, I saw you the way the world sees you. Not as my little boy. As a killer who feels nothing." Marcus's face crumpled. "Mom, stop," he pleaded, voice small. "Please don't do this here. We can talk later. At home, please." She shook her head. "There is no later anymore," she said quietly. "There is no home where we can pretend this didn't happen. Sarah Martinez doesn't get to go home. Her parents don't get a later." She turned back to Judge Judy. "Your Honor, my son is not a lost little boy who needs more chances. He is dangerous. He is arrogant. And he is exactly what the system is afraid to name when kids are under 18. Judge Judy watched her, expression almost unreadable. But her eyes were softer than they'd been at any point in the hearing. "What are you asking this court for, Mrs. Thompson?" She asked. The question hung there, heavy. Patricia exhaled slowly. "I am asking you," she said, "to do what I should have done years ago. Stop saving him from himself. Stop treating his age like a shield. Do not send him to juvenile. Do not seal this. Do not let him walk out at 21 like Sarah never existed. Her voice rose, filled with something rawer than anger, something close to grief and love twisted together. Make him face what he did. All of it. Try him as an adult. Give the Martinez family the justice I could never give them with my excuses. Because if he ever walks these streets again thinking he got away with this, then I'm as guilty as he is. Marcus broke, the boy who had yawned at murder charges, who'd called a judge lady, who'd joked about being free at 21, now folded in on himself. Sobs ripping out of his chest like something was being torn loose. "Mom, you can't," he cried. "You can't say that. You're my mother. You're supposed to be on my side." She looked at him, and for a moment the love in her eyes was almost unbearable. "I am on your side," she whispered. "For the first time in your life, I am actually on your side. The side that needs to learn what you've become. Because if I protect you from this too, then I don't have a son. I have a monster I helped build." Gasps stifled tears. Even the bailiff's eyes shone. Judge Judy let the silence stretch until everyone in the room had felt the full weight of what had just happened. Then she spoke. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, "what you just did is the hardest thing I've ever seen a parent do in this courtroom. You chose truth over denial, justice over comfort. That is real love. Do you understand that?" Patricia nodded weakly. Judge Judy turned back to Marcus. "Mr. Thompson," she said, voice like a knife wrapped in velvet, "for the first time today, someone has told the truth about you in this courtroom. And it was not you." He couldn't even meet her eyes. "You have treated this entire process like a joke," she went on. "You have reduced a young woman's life to stuff happens. You have used your age as a weapon, not a shield. That ends now." She looked down at the file, then back up at him. "The people's motion to have you tried as an adult is granted." The words dropped like stones. Sarah's mother clapped a hand over her mouth. Her husband let out a long, shuddering breath. Somewhere in the back, someone whispered, "Thank God." Marcus let out a long, animal sound. Not toughness. Not indifference. Fear. Real. Bone deep fear. "Your case," Judge Judy continued, "will be referred to adult criminal court with the full weight of these charges. You are looking at the possibility of life in prison, not because you are hated, not because you are 17, because that is what your actions demand." She looked up at the cameras, just for a second, and let this be very clear to anyone watching this who thinks 15. 16, 17 is a magic number that makes evil less evil. It is not. Age is not immunity. Some lines, once crossed, have consequences you do not age out of. She banged her gavel once. "Hard, bailiff, remand the defendant into custody, Mrs. Thompson. You may step down." As the bailiff moved toward Marcus, he twisted in his chair, reaching out. "Mom," he cried. "Mom, please. Don't let them." But Patricia didn't rush to him like she had in every other courtroom before this. She stood where she was, hands clasped at her chest, tears streaming, and whispered just loud enough for the microphones to catch, "I love you, Marcus. That's why I'm letting this happen." And for the first time in his life, he understood sometimes "I love you" sounds a lot like no. The clip of Marcus rolling his eyes during the reading of the charges went viral first. Then came the supercuts. His look, lady comment, his "I'm just a kid" smirk. The moment he joked about being out at 21, living his life. People were furious. Then, a day later, the full segment aired. The internet saw Patricia Thompson stand up, heard her asked to speak, watched her take an oath and destroy in 5 minutes. 17 years of denial. The hashtag shifted almost overnight. Hashtag justice for Sarah started trending again, but this time, alongside hashtag mothers choose justice, hashtag real parenting, and hashtag accountability over excuses. Some called her a monster. How can you do that to your own child? Far more people called her a hero. This is love. This is what we're missing. Parents like this are why there's hope. Legal commentators dissected every second of her testimony on talk shows. Child psychologists used the video in lectures. Youth workers shared it with parents in support groups, saying, "This is what it looks like when you finally stop enabling." In a world where cameras usually catch parents screaming at teachers, attacking referees, defending their kids no matter how wrong they are, Patricia had done the unthinkable. She'd refused to help her son escape the worst thing he'd ever done. Adult criminal court didn't move fast. It never does. But when Marcus's trial eventually came, there were no more games. The same video, the same facts, the same 37 seconds that had shattered his mother's illusions. His attorneys tried to lean on his age, tried to bring in experts, tried to paint him as a product of his environment, but the jury had seen the Judge Judy tape. They'd heard Patricia on the stand, this time as a formal witness, repeat what she'd said that first day. Asterisk, I am not here to save him. I am here to tell the truth. They convicted him. Second-degree murder, armed robbery, enhancements for use of a firearm. When the judge, this one in a real, non-televised courtroom, handed down a sentence that meant Marcus would spend most, if not all, of his adult life behind bars, there were no cheers. Just a long, exhausted silence. Sarah's parents cried. They didn't celebrate. This wasn't a win. Nothing brings your child back. But later, outside the courthouse, Sarah's mother said quietly to a reporter, "At least now I know the person who killed my daughter won't be out in 4 years like nothing happened." And I know his mother did everything she could to finally stop him. I don't hate her. I pray for her. As for Patricia, her life didn't get easier after that day in Judge Judy's courtroom. It got harder. There were nights she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd done the right thing. If there had been some other way. If there was a universe where her son learned his lesson without losing his freedom. But every time she replayed that video of Sarah on the sidewalk, of Marcus walking away, the doubt faded. She started getting messages, emails, letters. Asterisk from parents with kids on the edge, stealing, fighting, using, hurting. Parents who had been smoothing things over, writing checks, making calls, saying, "He's a good boy, really." They wrote things like, "I saw myself in you. I've been hiding what my son has done, I think. It's time I stopped. I'm terrified I'll have to make the choice you did one day. Thank you for showing me it's possible to choose right, even when it feels wrong. Asterisk, I don't know if I'm strong enough to do what you did, but I want to be." With the help of advocates and counselors, Patricia helped start a small nonprofit, the Thompson Foundation for Accountability and Support. Asterisk, the mission wasn't to lock kids up. It was to help parents of kids who'd crossed serious lines, violence, crime, cruelty, find the courage and resources to stop enabling and start intervening in ways that actually protect everyone. Workshops about setting boundaries instead of buying excuses. Legal advice about when helping becomes obstruction. Support circles where mothers and fathers could say, out loud, "I'm scared of what my child is becoming," without being judged. They played that Judge Judy segment in almost every session, not to shame. To show that real love is not blind. It sees clearly, even when what it sees hurts like hell. And what about Marcus? Prison is not a movie montage. It's long. It's boring. It's dangerous. It's full of mirrors you can't avoid inside your own head. For the first year, he was angry. At the system. At the judge. At his mother most of all. He told anyone who would listen, "She betrayed me. She ruined my life." But life behind bars has its own way of pulling masks off. He met older men who'd walked the same path. Started in juvenile. Got 100 second chances. Kept pushing till one day there were no more. They laughed bitterly when he talked about being just a kid. One day, one of them told him, "You wake up and you're 45 and you realize nobody did this to you. You did it. And the only person who tried to stop you was the one you hate the most right now." Some nights, when the noise died down and the cell block quieted, his mother's words replayed in his head. "I love you. That's why I'm letting this happen." The first time he cried for Sarah, nobody saw. Years later, he agreed to let a prison counselor use his story full story, not edited virality for at-risk kids programs. He didn't get early release for it. He didn't get a lighter sentence. It didn't fix anything, but it was the first time in his life he did something that wasn't about escaping consequences. Back on the outside, that 17-minute video stayed online. Passed around in parenting groups, law school classes, youth circles, not because people loved watching a teenager get destroyed, because they saw something they almost never see on camera, a mother who finally said, "My love for you is too big to keep lying about who you are." Judge Judy said it best at the end of that taping, in a line that got cut from most viral edits but stuck with everyone who heard it live. Mercy without truth isn't kindness. It's cruelty in slow motion. If this story hit you in any way, you already know what to do. Share it. Talk about it. Ask yourself the hard question. If someone you love was becoming dangerous, would you have the courage Patricia Thompson did? Or would you keep buying peace until it was too late for someone else's child? Because sometimes the bravest thing a parent can do is the thing their own child will hate them for. Let justice do its job.